Okay, so I mean, I think we should take a minute here and kind of explain to folks what our trip is and kind of what the purpose of it is. We've talked about a lot about our training, mine for Unbound, your training leading up to this. Um, but I think it's important that we explain that we're not going into this like we're not trying to set a fastest known time or anything. And that honestly, trying not to go fast for the
Yeah.
two of us, especially together, is one of the hardest things I think we're going to
Yeah.
find about
Because
this
you're
trip.
the half wheeler of all time.
I am that's not true. I react to your half wheeling. Um, but I think that's something for a lot of folks, probably more than are willing to admit. Like, it's very difficult to slow down.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do on this trip. Like, we could have easily made this trip ridiculous and done it in like 3 days or 4 days and just did these big massive days and gone fast and light and tried to do it as quickly as we could, but we'd miss it. And we've both had specifically, I don't want to say like we have these hard lives that are very stressful and whatever, but like we've had a lot going on this first half of the year, and we're kind of using this as a chance to slow down and kind of relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's our intent.
There is so we broke the trip up. The first basically 5 days are 85 to 95 miles. And each day we know is going to take us between, I would think, 6 and 7 hours, just being conservative about it. We're going to average 13 to 15 miles an hour, probably. For those who don't know what the road is like, it's all up or down. Basically, like, so you're either climbing or you're just kind of coasting, descending down to the next climb. There's a little bit of flat, but it's like very rare. Most of what we're going to do is going to basically be settling into a climb at a reduced rate and not flying down a descent, because they're not super steep, but that's your recovery time. So whereas we are going to climb 70,000 feet or something over the course of the thing, it is going to be that much descent too, which is also kind of wild. One thing that challenges me here, I think, on a long distance day, when I've done 5-6 hours, or I've done a century by myself or whatever, it's like, it's really hard to pedal and grind here on the flatlands for that long, because you don't ever get a break. If you want to slow down and push 170 watts, it's like, it's not even possible. Like, you can't go that slow here without it just being like a slog. So you end up having to push more watts because you need to keep moving at this speed that, here just keeps you moving. And up where we're going to have a lot of chill time on those descents. And then we can't really go fast on the climbs. And I think that's part of the challenge of the mindset that you're talking about, is like, we don't really know what that's going to be like. I feel like we're going to find out very quickly, because from Cherokee to Pisgah, to Mount Pisgah, it is pretty much all uphill that first day. And we're going to know what it's like to climb with the bikes, with fresh legs, with all these, like, how are we going to solve our half wheeling problem? Because we joke about it, but we have a legit issue.
We do.
Where we're so evenly matched but we're still different, that we like constantly are like trying to like show the other person we're stronger today. And that's going to be really hard to do for 6 days when we're trying to stay together. So we'll solve that pretty quickly on like, what's your level, what's my level, and then what's the median pace that we can ride. I hope we ride together, honestly. I hope we don't just climb at different paces and like honestly spend the whole time, you know, quarter mile away from each other.
I'll slow down for you. It's fine.
we we do have a lot of carrying capacity, and we don't need to bring a whole bunch of stuff, but we are going to have to bring enough food and water and shelter and change of clothes, that kind of thing. Where like our bike's going to be pretty heavy. My bike specifically has going to have, I'll probably be carrying, I don't know, 5 or 10 more pounds than yours will, honestly. And I'm carrying around, you know, significantly more weight in general. So I think we're going to be fine, but I did a big training ride in Virginia a couple weeks ago where I tried to kind of mimic the pace that we would go. Of course, I wasn't fully loaded, but it was up there on that same terrain. And there's just not, you just can't go up those climbs fast. There's just no way around it. And we're so used to being flatlanders where we get any little hill, any little bump, molehill, and we're crushing it up the thing, you know, because there's the worst case scenarios. It's like a minute long or two.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these climbs are pretty substantial. Most of the climbs take 10 or 15 minutes, honestly, and then they can go up to 2-3 hours, I think. And over the course of like going up to Mitchell or going up to Pisgah is going to take a while. So we'll have to settle in, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm most nervous about food, honestly. Like that's the thing I'm the most nervous about. I don't think there's as much opportunity for us to get food as we think. And especially if we stay on the Parkway. So I'm planning on bringing more stuff, in hopes that I don't need it, but also being happy that I carried it. So that's kind of my goal, like not to bring a week's worth of food, but like, I don't want to be like dying to eat something to survive the work that we're doing and then be like, we're 30 miles from the next so-and-so. Like, I don't want to be in that situation. I have got enough bags where I should be able, I'd rather have food on my bike than I would clothes. So.
Yeah, I think, and that's something I think we should point out is it's not that we haven't put planning into this trip.
Yeah.
But part of it is like we talked about earlier with everything else we've had going on. This is kind of like we know our route. We know where we're staying every night.
Yeah.
Everything else, we're just kind of letting it happen and seeing what happens.
Yeah. Kind of winging it.
Yeah. And that's part of is that going to add like probably a little extra stress at some point during one of the days? Yeah. Cause we're going to be like, oh man, I really need water or I need food. But
yeah,
at the same time, it's like we're on a Blue Ridge. We're not going to die out there.
Yeah.
Like we'll make it. It might be a bonk afternoon at some point, but kind of just let it happen and see where it goes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good resources for the trip, but there's very poor cell service up there almost the whole way. And I do have like a Garmin in reach that, you know, we're going to track with the wives and stuff, but like we may find that we're, you know, one of my biggest fears is probably that we'll pass some little unsuspecting turn that has like a cheeseburger stand on the other side of it and we'll never know. So
and we ride another 40 miles to get to a campground.
I could have had a cheeseburger. So we've done a fair amount of research, but like Pete's saying, like, I think part of it, it's not totally dirt bagging it, but just enjoying the day, and not being in a hurry. Cause if we get up and we crush the 85 miles and we're at the next campsite by lunch, you know, that's not going to really solve our need for slowing it down. So I'm looking forward to those things that pop up along the trip. I would love to I would love to, like, one of my goals is to map this out in a way for other people so it's digestible. There's a few resources about riding the Parkway, but I couldn't find any about actually doing it the way we're doing it, where you're self-supported camping. There is like, hey, you can go, and I've ridden the Parkway and the drive just like anybody who lives up in Virginia. Like, we do it all the time, but you're doing it on a day trip.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do it multiple days, there's just certain things that there's certain places you can stay. There's places you can get food, and there's just really not resources for that. So I just think for us, we're going to try to document that for other people. And it's ironic that we're doing it the same time Tour Divide's going on, because Tour Divide is like, the US equivalent of the Super Bowl of bike packing. And everybody's doing that with their own setups and, bike bags and tents and food and blah, blah, blah. But there's a really well-established pipeline of places to stop and to refuel. They're not plentiful, but they're documented. And this trip has got, like, I think from a bike perspective, there's something that's needed there. So, and I could be missing the resource, but we don't see it. I mean, so, that's kind of the thing. And I don't know. I mean, I'm probably over. I think we both are underselling how hard it's going to be because it's a brutal amount of climbing. And we don't get to do climbing where we're at. We're fine at it. It's just that's a lot. That's 6 days, like, in the legs, like, fit as we may be, that's going to require food and rest and, whatever. So I'm excited about it. I wanted to hear from your perspective though, because, like, I know you have other goals too. What has it been like to go do Unbound and then right away have this looming right behind it?
Yeah. Well, like we talked about, a little earlier, not just Unbound specifically, but I think anytime you put so much time and effort into a single event, like, there's fatigue involved. And I don't mean just like, oh, I'm tired because I was riding 250 miles a week or 300 miles a week or whatever. Like, it's just like mental fatigue. And you get the event done. And, like, I knew essentially 2 weeks after we finished Unbound, like, I knew we were starting this. Like, I've known that for a while now, right? We've been planning this out. But it's like, I finished Unbound and I came back, and all I really wanted to do was take some time and be like, I don't want to ride my bike today, or I want to go mountain biking instead of doing this. And I don't want to have to think about anything. I just want to recover, really, both mentally and physically.
Yeah.
But it's not that easy. And I think I always had this idea of like, oh, this is like bike summer and I'm going to plan so much stuff and everything's going to happen. I'm going to do all these things this summer. And what I'm finding is, we talked about this before the podcast, but there's like an event that I do every year that I'm just like, I'm just not going to do it this year because I want the time to not do something.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm stoked for our trip, and I know once we get going, I'm going to be super happy to be on the bike and riding in a place that I love to ride. But mentally, it's like, it's taxing.
Yeah.
To do a tight turnaround like this. And, like, not just for me, but it's like, I was gone essentially for a week for Unbound, and I come back, and now, like, and my wife's awesome and she's totally about all of this. But now it's like, hey, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be gone for another week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's a lot, like I've become more of a homebody the older I've gotten. And it's like, it's fun to go do this stuff. And it's an experience I know, we'll never forget, good, bad, or otherwise. But at the same time, it's like, dang, man, like I just want to lay on my couch for a little while and just take a nap. But
Yeah,
there's just so much other stuff.
I do hear what you're saying. I do think you're not capable of laying on your couch very long. So, but I think the sense of what you're talking about is just the mental fatigue of preparing for something. And the one thing that I've noticed about your post Unbound, which is totally fine, and you said you were going to do this beforehand, was you needed to not stress out about preparing post all of that effort. Yet it's looming, and here we are 5 days away from getting in the car and going, and there is so much prep work that just getting your act together and getting your bags together and your bike dialed and all these things. And we collectively been working on it for months. I don't have any stress about actually doing the ride, which is funny because it's actually probably the most stressful part. It's all of the things, and it's not like the forget about this or forget about that, but like, I'm with you. Like, you cannot understate leaving your family for a week, or leaving the business for the week, or doing anything this selfish for a week, because it does have a ripple effect and an impact. And it's a physical thing. It's not like you're like, I'm going on vacation for a week. My wife will sometimes phrase it like as if doing something super fun, and I'm like, no, it's gonna be really hard, really, really hard. And I'm going to be wrecked probably after. I'm going to be happy and like euphorically excited I'm done, but there's no way I finished 6 days of this much effort and I'm like stoked, to like take the kids to the pool the next day. Like, I'm not gonna, I'm going to be shot. And I'm probably going to be shot for a little while. And I know that's the feeling you had post Unbound too. It's like you did it, you accomplished what you wanted, you did all the driving, you did all of the effort of the race, just all of the stress that you're harboring leading up to it. And you're managing all that stress in a way. And then eventually you have this other ball of stress of this trip is waiting for you, and you don't want to pick it up right away. It's the same thing with SBT. You have this other bike race, but there's the logistics of it. There's a plane flights, and there's taking your wife out there, and there's all of that. How am I going to get my bike out there?
Arguably more than Kansas. Like,
and
it's really, I think that's going to be for me the thing. I agree that the ride itself to me it's whatever. Like, I mean that, like, I'm not stressed about it, about the riding portion of it. Once we get on the road and we start pedaling, like, it'll be great. And I know we're going to enjoy it. And it's just the biggest thing we're going to have to worry about every day is, what are we going to eat for lunch?
Or are we going to eat lunch?
It's just, or are we?
Let me ask you a question.
I think a lot of it,
are you worried about me like you were before? You had said before that you thought for sure, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I got the sense that you were worried I wouldn't be fit enough, or I wouldn't be prepared, that you were worried that I was going to crack. Are you worried about that now?
No, well, okay. So I'll be honest. I'm not physically worried about you, but I think there's still, and worried is a strong word. I'm not like concerned for your health or safety or anything. I am interested to see how you react to a lot of back-to-back big days, because I know it's been a long time since you've done anything like that.
I've never done this, so this is uncharted territory for sure.
Like, I know how I tend to react doing big back-to-back days. I mean, I know I did that 10-day ride a while ago, but I've done a lot of times um, when COVID first kicked off. Like I did a lot of big back-to-back days because I just didn't have anything else to do, you know. So like I kind of know how I react to it, but at the same time, it's like neither one of us have really done big days back to back while we're like camping in
Yeah.
between at least most of the nights and kind of searching for where we're going to get our next meal and that kind of thing. So it goes the same way for both of us, I think, probably.
You know what my biggest fear is, and not fear, but like I do know, I don't know how my body's going to react to multiple days, but there is a
Hmm.
major difference between the two of us that is going to play out next week. And it might be super ugly. It might be awesome, but we deal with stress, adversity, and things in and out of our control completely different. Like we are polar opposites in some ways.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be easy for me to read you and accommodate you for what you need in a tough moment on the bike. But I feel like you might, and this is being super honest, and don't take this the wrong way, you might just be like, not want anything to do with me day 3 because you're in a dark spot and I'm in a dark spot, and it turns into a solo
Yeah.
slog. And what I think is interesting about this too is like we've talked about this for months. It's a mindset. And it's like
Hmm.
a lot of what you do that is good is that you are a great solo rider. You know what I mean? Like you can go out there. You're a little bit like Colin. You're a little bit like Lee, in that like you on your own, you're an indomitable force. But when you have to ride with me, we're not always riding together. We're almost riding competitively together.
Yeah.
And that can't happen out on this trip. And we've never really done it. Like we've done it some. I mean, and I don't, if you're just listening to this, you're not going to see us smirking, but it's true. Like if you know us, we're a force together, but it's because we're beating each other over the head the whole time while we're riding. And I feel like we're either going to find this perfectly zen balance and read each other, and we're going to coexist wonderfully, or it's going to be the stuff for like Real Housewives of Ridge Supply or something. I don't know. Like, and that's part I'm actually kind of excited about to find out. I'm not so worried about it. I don't think it's going to be bad.
No,
Does that make
look, I
sense?
think
Is that,
no, it does.
Okay.
It really does. And I think you're probably spot on with that. When you and I ride together, 99% of the time, it's like we're constantly trying to prove something to one another, even if we're not actually consciously trying. Like, and like you said, when you put the two of us together in like the local group ride,
yeah, it's hard
we'll
to
work
handle.
together great,
Mhm.
and we'll kill it. But I think part of it, for me at least, what I've been trying to focus on, especially this past week post Unbound, is like I'm trying to not be competitive about it. Like I really do want to just go out and enjoy this because it's not something that I
This is
do,
being
let alone
recorded.
we do.
This is being
Yeah,
recorded, by
no,
the way.
I know. I know. Um, and that's not to say that we won't have, low spots on a trip when we just feel like garbage or we're bonking or whatever, and that's fine. But I think the big thing is we're both terrible at, and I think everybody probably is to some extent, saying, "Hey, let's just dial it back." Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that we need to.
Yeah. And we don't really know when I think the first day or two, which are the hardest 2 days, will
Yeah.
be fine. And we might overcook it on these, this 25,000 feet of climbing that we have to do in the first 2 days.
Yeah.
But after that, there might be this truce, like you're saying, where we're like, hey, I can't go, today we got to dial it back. The hardest thing too, though, is like, I think dialing it back on these climbs is the worst. It's almost easier to just ride your pace, whatever that may be on the day, and not worry about if you're together or if you're behind or you're whatever, and then slowly coming back together on the descent, and because like that's the natural ebb and flow of it. We can climb at the same pace, but maybe we just don't need to. There's no drafting involved. It's not like it's beneficial.
Yeah, we're not going to be worried about drafting at 5 miles an hour.
Yeah, so I think that'll be something that'll play out, and hopefully we can be smart enough. I think we will be smart enough to manage that. I mean, I know. Yeah, I plan on it.
I think, and I think we're gonna find, and I know I've told you this before. Like, I think we're gonna find like day 3, probably gonna feel a lot better than you thought you would.
Yeah.
Just based off the times I've done multi-day things or back-to-back
big days, like, man.
Yeah, it is. But I also think it doesn't take long, especially when you already have a level of fitness. It doesn't take long for your body to adjust to it. And then it just becomes okay, well, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to wake up, we're going to ride 90 miles an hour at 12 miles, or 90 miles at 12 miles an hour. And
90 miles an hour.
And that's it. Yeah. Well, yeah. Coming off Mitchell.
Yeah. Do you have those Strava routes? Can you pull them up so we could, I'd like to hear the footage. The first day, we're basically going, just so people know, and we can document it verbally here. We're driving out to Asheville on Friday. Pete's wife and son are going to drive us out, and we got a hotel room in Asheville. So we'll stay Friday night. We'll get up Saturday morning, and she will drive us to Cherokee, and we're going to be fully loaded, ready to roll. We're going to come back to Asheville, which is 85 miles, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So day 1, Cherokee to Asheville is about 86 miles and just over 11,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah. So, and if you haven't done this before, been out that way, climb to basically Mount Pisgah, which is 25 miles outside of town, maybe 20 miles. And so that first 60 miles, let's say, is pretty much climbing off and on from Cherokee up to Pisgah. And then it's downhill roughly from Mount Pisgah down to Asheville. And then we're going to stay in a hotel, the same hotel we had Friday night, on Saturday night. So the first night, because there really isn't a campground near the Parkway to ride to in Asheville. And then the second day we're going to get up, and then what are we going to
do? Second day again is a little over 86 miles. It's between 10 and 11,000 feet of climbing. The big one with that is basically we start the day and we're going up Mount Mitchell. Not all the way to the top, but up the Parkway route.
Yeah.
And then we will end the day at Julian Price Campground, which is basically
near Blowing Rock,
just before the Virginia border.
It's near Blowing Rock.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then so we're going to go, we'll probably hit Little Switzerland. We'll get some food there. That's later in the ride. That's on the other side of Mitchell. And then stay in Julian Price. That's Sunday night. And then Monday morning, we get up and we're rolling to Fancy Gap, which Fancy Gap is in Southern Virginia.
Yep. That day will be about 95 miles, about 9,700 feet of climbing, but it's a net downhill day.
Yeah.
So,
Crazy.
I mean,
We're
yeah,
going
and
to
then
finish that in like 3
Fancy
hours.
Gap.
No problem.
Yeah, for sure. But that one's nice. The Fancy Gap campground we're staying at is the one that like there's like a swimming area, and there's they have a general store there and that kind of thing, and showers and stuff like that. It's a private campground. It's not one of the national park ones.
Right.
And then there we go Fancy Gap to Richmond.
No, to Roanoke.
Roanoke. Yeah, not Richmond.
Yeah.
Roanoke on day 4, which is about 90 miles, about 7,500 feet of climbing.
There's a big detour there too. So we have to go into town, and we're probably going to end up getting a hotel in Roanoke. But that'll be kind of nice because we'll have a hotel, destination, probably get a real meal, etc. And then the next day, which is Wednesday.
5, so Wednesday, will be Roanoke to around Montebello, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And we're staying at the Montebello Fishing and Camping Campground or something like that. And that one's actually like 2 miles off the Parkway, but it's really the only thing in that area.
Yeah. That we could stay at.
Yeah. And it's another place that, it'll be nice to have showers. There's like a lake. It's just down from some waterfall or something. If we wanted to go down there, there's a nice general store. So we're not like totally dirtbag roughing it in like the worst places possible, but it is still like the nights for camping, we're one-man tents and whatever we can find for food. So
yeah, I have this sneaky suspicion that we're going to have things like Cokes and Snickers that we can get at these kind of places. And then we're going to end up eating our pre-bought meals on the stove or whatever, which is fine. Or getting some advice. Hey, we can ride to wherever and get, a cheeseburger, but we won't know until we get there. And then the last day, which is scheduled now for Thursday, is a pretty big pull to try to get all the way to the end.
Yeah, that's the rest of Skyline Drive. So Montebello to Front Royal, where Skyline Drive starts or ends, depending on which way you're going. And that day is about 134 miles and just over 12,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done that ride a bunch, actually, not that all full day, but basically we knew that we could break that up into 2 days, and that would make some sense. But we also thought that knowing the terrain too, it is a decent amount of climbing, but there is a fair amount of downhill, and it gets easier towards the end, and that we could just put in a longer day and make it happen. That honestly is maybe super ambitious that last day. I don't know, but we're going to try. And we have a bailout plan where we could stop at Big Meadows about 80 miles in, spend the night, and then finish the next day and be fine. So that's kind of always been our plan, was like finish it in 6 days, but we have a 7th day if we need. And so, I mean, I hope that if anybody else is interested in doing this, like, I hope we sort of can lay some groundwork for it being done. I'm sure it's got to it can be done in either direction. My gut feeling is that if we're going to have a friendly wind, that going south to north is the more likely of the wind. I mean, granted, we'll probably have a 6-day headwind because we're going that direction, but
probably.
In theory, that's the way the jet stream rolls, I guess. Right. So, I haven't really done too much looking into it, and Pete's the weatherman. He can.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have generally a south or southwesterly wind for the most part as of right now. But also, it's like you kind of get the two biggest climbs out of the way first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. You know, there's kind of two schools of thought on that: is do the biggest days while you're the freshest, or, you know, the opposite. If you're going to north to south, is like kind of build into,
Yeah.
you know, those biggest days and get your legs kind of warmed up for it. But yeah, we're gonna find out. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to just like get together, get this stuff, get some of it out there, have it documented, and then also be able to follow up, obviously post ride with more details. Sorry for all of the minutia of just chitty chat on this, but it's kind of one of those things, like it's just an idea and we're about to kind of make it a reality. And even so, we'll have a million adjustments, mistakes, whatever, or like some campground will be great. Some other campground will be like, bro, we need to change that next time to, avoid it. I hope there's two big Parkway detours right now. One is down in, we need to figure out which day that is. I feel like
it'll be day 2.
It's before Fancy Gap, right?
Yeah, it's around Boone, actually.
Yeah, so it's in between Julian Price and Fancy Gap, and there's basically a bridge that they are going to be replacing, and that's the area I drove it a couple months ago. That's the area that you always see the Blue Ridge Parkway pictures on, where like they have built these, instead of tunnels, they built these bridges around the outside of the curve of the the ridge line, and I think one of them needs to be repaired, and it's like a 2-year thing. And then maybe that's the one that's in Roanoke. Anyway, and there's another one up in Roanoke, basically right outside of Roanoke, that is closing as well. And so we're going to have a pretty big detour in Roanoke. So technically, we're not going to stay on the Blue Ridge Parkway the entire time. We're going to have these 2 sections where we're going to have to go off. And I'm hoping there's a cheeseburger stand. I don't know if y'all know, but I want a cheeseburger out there, right? I want to find a cheeseburger.
Clearly. And if we don't do a follow-up podcast, that's your indicator of how well the trip went.
Pete's no longer working here, and I've officially half-wheeled him in real life. Yeah. So thank you for listening and putting up with our shenanigans. It is Monday, and we are leaving on Friday. So we're looking forward to that. The only other news, since we're going to put this bad boy up, let's talk about the collab that we have coming up. It's the worst kept secret in all of sports, but we basically have done an exclusive collab with Gooder. They have their new Rap G glasses, which are their first real cycling specific glasses that they've come out with. Those glasses retail at $45, and there's 6 different colorways. We have them in stock, and we have partnered with them to make a sock that matches. So we have 6 bundles. You basically buy a pair of glasses and get a matching sock in the size that you want. And they will be available for sale on our website and also on Gooder's website, and they are $60. So that's for a pair of glasses and a sock. That is crazy hard to beat in the world of cycling sunglasses. They do work very, very well, and we are looking forward to sort of launching that while we're on our trip. We will be suspending our shipping as of Saturday, and we'll pick it back up the following week. So we're going to have a whole week where we're gone on this trip, and we're not going to be doing any shipping. But one of the things we're going to do is be able to have our stuff sort of pre-launched there, and so we'll be good to go. Inventory will be pretty limited on the glasses side, at least initially. And I'm confident we're going to sell out very quickly. So I'm not trying to overhype it, but as all things are supply chain related, we need to just warn you on that. We'll get as many glasses as we can as quickly as we can, and we're looking forward to continuing that partnership with Gooder for a while. So we'll be able to sell the glasses on ridgesupply.com as well. So
yeah, so don't wait.
Yeah,
don't wait for this. Like when we launch them, it's if you don't buy them in the first couple of days, you're gonna be out of luck. And the way the supply chain is right now with these glasses and things like that specifically, like who knows when we're going to be able to restock.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen our emails or seen our post, you know, and there's other brands like us as well, like constantly talking about restocks, and it seems like we're always running out. Like, why don't you buy more? Well, you know, part of and we don't even, you know, our socks are made by Defeat here in North Carolina. We don't have the same kind of issues, but just launching new things and new colorways, and also the lead time that it takes to get something, you just never know. There are times when we'll get colors, you know, like we'll have a sock colorway or something like that, and between the subscription and maybe a dealer that wants to buy some, or some team all of a sudden buys 40 pair, you know, you just never know what's going to happen with inventory. So that doesn't mean you have to buy stuff, but if I could had a nickel for every time someone sends me an email and asks about some sock that we haven't sold for 3 years, and am I going to bring it back? There's a reason. If we don't sell a sock anymore, there's a reason we don't sell it. And that's because people stopped buying it. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty simple. So, once people stopped buying it, we stopped carrying it. So, yeah, that being said, with the Gooder stuff, we have a really good inventory of the socks, and there's, like I said, there's 6 colorways initially. You have to buy the glasses with the socks. So please don't ask us to just sell the sock. That time will come, but that's going to be a few months from now. And so, yeah, Be the Bright podcast is back for now. This was episode 51 with Pete and I getting ready to do the Blue Ridge Parkway plus Skyline Drive next week. And stay tuned. The other things that are coming up are Arsenal applications starting July 1st. If you're interested in becoming an Arsenal member and applying, it'll be open applications on the website. That their email will go out. There'll be a link in our profile, and you can apply to be an Arsenal member for the month of July. We do review all those applications and then select the new class at the end of the month. And typically the way that works is we'll notify everybody on August 1st, and we'll have a whole new class of Arsenal members. And then shortly after that, we'll have another round of kit orders and all that kind of stuff for August 1st. So we've got some cool things in the works. In the meantime, if anybody has any questions about Arsenal, or is wondering what it is, or why is it different? What do I need to do to apply? Blah, blah, blah. Pete is your man. You can send him an email at pete@ridgesupply.com, or you can interact with the Ridge Supply Arsenal Instagram account, and he's the guy on the other end of that, so he can answer any questions you may have. We have, we have 300 plus Arsenal members. In theory, we're going to add another 72 folks. But there will be some changes in regards to how those folks interact with the brand. Nothing negative, just we definitely have seen some patterns develop over the 7 years of doing it, and what works or doesn't work for us and also for Arsenal members. And so we're just going to try to make some tweaks to make a situation a little bit more fluid and beneficial both ways for folks that don't want to interact with the brand. And it's really super, I'm just humbled that people even want to, but it's pretty cool that we can help. And we have somebody like Pete that's kind of been on both sides of the coin, help navigate that. You got any feedback on that, Pete? I don't know if I just
no, I mean, we'll have the email will come out soon with all the info for any changes that are being made for old Arsenal members, and how that's going to change. And then we'll open up for the new Arsenal members July 1st.
Yes. Let's see. One of the couple things that are coming down the pipe, we're definitely going back to Peacham. Gravista is coming up next Saturday. Everybody who's registered for Gravista is getting a pair of special Gravista colorway Skyline socks, which is pretty rad. There are there's new Skyline Peachum socks for everybody who registered for the Peachum Fall Fondo, and not sure about other events at the moment that were booked for in the fall, but we still have to carve out the details for Moonlight Hunt Club. And hell or high water, we're going to have a Moonlight Hunt Club this year. And of course, we're not going to do it the same weekend as Pete's in Colorado, but we'll figure out. We'll have to get the Stoke back pumped up for putting that event on. It's coming up here in the fall, and we're looking forward to having a non-massive event that we can do here and enjoy it. So stay tuned for that information. And other than that, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Be the Bright podcast with Matt and Pete here at Ridge Supply headquarters in Cedar Point, North Carolina on this fine Monday. And peace out. See ya.